Hello, Oshawa. I had to be here tonight. I had to see you face to face. Because as our speakers have said, you are the front line in the defense of Canada right now. And one thing the rest of Canada, the rest of the world needs to know is that Oshawa doesn't break or bend ever, right? And you're not about to break now. So anyways, people might have come for all sorts of reasons. I just want to know, did anyone come here tonight thinking that, because Donald Trump came to Canada, we get a deal, and you'd want me to explain how we were all going to be able to go back to our lives? Did anyone come here for that? Was anyone surprised? Then how many of you came here because you were watching the disappearance of the rule of law in the United States? And you're watching people being kidnapped off the streets by men in masks. You're seeing that and you're saying, I cannot let that come across the border and intimidate us. Is that why you're here? And you were here because you thought initially, well, all the important people would do the right thing and we wouldn't get to this point. And you saw that they didn't do the right thing. They tiptoed around the gangster. They hoped it would go away. They would say, oh, it was Trump being Trump. And you saw at every step of the way that we were going down a road that we should never go down. Right? That's why you're here. Because it falls to ordinary people and ordinary Canadians, because in the defense of democracy, you can always count that Canadians will hold the line. That's why you're here tonight. You know that since November 2024, Donald Trump has attacked and ridiculed Canada well over 100 times. And he has said nothing negative about the war criminal Vladimir Putin. That shows you who he is. And then what did he say today? Oh, he's giving us 30 days to cut a deal. Doesn't he always give us 30 days, or he suspends for 30 days when he goes full taco, So now it's 30 days. And then he said again, and it'd be better off if you were the 51st state. Exactly. So we've got this MAGA ambassador in Canada, Pete Hoekstra, right? You should look up Pete Hoekstra. Don't take my word for it. You might think I'm one of those crazy disinformation conspiracists. Just look on Wikipedia. They tried to kick Pete Hoekstra out of the Netherlands when he was the ambassador there because he was hosting far-right extremist fundraisers right in the American embassy in breach of international law. That's what he was doing. So Pete Hoekstra said, get over it, Canada. America's feelings were hurt too. We haven't even begun to hurt your feelings yet, Pete. So suck it up, And Pete said, oh, Donald's over, insulting your country. No, he's not. He never was. Did we ever get the memo that Donald thinks that we actually have a right to exist as a nation? So he said today, you're going to pay billions. Or I give you 30 days, but hey, if you get down on your knees and kiss the gangster ring and give up your sovereignty, it'll go easier on you. That's what we're dealing with. And that's what we're dealing with. And that's never, ever going to happen, right? Wow, let's go pick on the Canadians, right? I mean, what's easier to pick on than Canadians? That's what they thought. They thought we were pushovers. Now they're learning. Because the thing about Canada, and we need to talk about this tonight, something profound happened to us in the last 6 months. Number one, as a general rule, we don't really talk about a national story, right? Like we're slackers. We're likable slackers, right? You know, we don't really wave flags. We go for Canada Day, we sort of him and ha, we sing the national anthem quietly, then we go to the beer tent. Busted. We didn't need a big national story. We didn't need to be jingoistic because, well, we had next door neighbors who were super loud. And we just did our thing. And then suddenly, we have a guy who says that we don't even have a right to exist as a nation. And overnight, something changed forever in this country. You said, not on my watch. And you said at the kitchen table, no, we're not going back to Florida. And you called the hotel in Arizona and said, I don't care if we lose our deposit. You're not getting another dime. That is a powerful moment. An economic boycott is a very, very powerful tool, but Canada's economic boycott is unique because it wasn't organized from the top. It came from the bottom. Because our Prime Minister, and I think the best thing Prime Minister Trudeau ever did was when he stood up to Trump and said, we'll go back at you dollar for dollar. And then Trump said, oh yeah? Well, we're going to double the tariffs. And then the Prime Minister said, well, we'll do it again. We will meet you dollar for dollar. And then he tacoed. Right? But in the meantime, it was ordinary Canadians who said, I am not going to be pushed around. I am not going to give up my nation to a thug like that. And I was just seeing this graph the other day. Do you know that American wine sales to Canada is down 93%? Yeah. 93%. I love going into the liquor store and seeing all the little things it says. Very much like a California Chardonnay, but you can get it from New Zealand or France or from Ontario. And soon we'll be getting it from BC. We will get our wine from democratic places, not from a country run by fascists. Right? And there was a great YouTube video I watched that talked about the 10 states that have been kicked the hardest by Canadian resistance. And topping the list was Florida. Ron DeSantis, number one. That was the state the other day where they had a sheriff say, if people protested, we will shoot you graveyard dead. Imagine that, a public official telling people who protest that we will shoot you graveyard dead. That's what happens in a fascist regime. So damn right, Florida, we are not coming back. You will never get another dime from us as long as you support fascism. And is that language over the top? No. You know this. Because if you can arrest a judge in their courtroom, then you can arrest a mayor on the street. And then you can throw a senator down on the ground for asking questions. And then you can assassinate your political opponents. And your MAGA people can go online and make jokes about it. Once that happens, there is no more rule of law. You are in the realm of fascism. So when we're being asked to negotiate with a fascist state, we have to be very, very clear about what's on the table. Because if you give in to gangsters once, they're going to come back for more. So I'm not saying it's going to be easy. We are facing a serious, serious threat. But if we start giving concessions to a gangster, we can guarantee that we will become that vassal state. So your choice. And Oshawa, it is your choice more than anywhere else because you are the front line. Do you hope for concessions? Or do you live the code that Oshawa showed, which is we don't give in, we don't kiss the ring, we stand up for what's right. You can hit us as hard as you can, but we will still be standing at the end of the day. That's your choice. Elbows up. You know, I've been thinking of these stories a lot because these are stories we didn't tell each other. We didn't think we needed to tell each other, right? Again, a nation of likable slackers. I began to realize what it meant just in the last few years when I had the honor, the great honor, to represent Canada at the commemorations. I was there, the commemoration of the Battle of Sicily, the Battle of Italy, the battles of Italy at Monte Cassino, the breaking of the Hitler line. I was there in the immense graveyards in Normandy, and I suddenly understood. Yes. Because all through those commemorations, there was a big cloud. It was Donald Trump. I'm not kidding. And at that point, we were still American allies, you know. They were over on Omaha Beach and we were at Juneau and their people came over afterwards. But we were there and it was fascinating. We were there with the French and the Brits and the Germans who came in their uniforms also to lay wreaths. And they were all talking about what was the future if the Americans broke with Europe. Because we didn't just get the modern world. It was built just like the American middle class was built. What we built out of the Second World War was extraordinary, and I didn't understand the full nature of it till I saw the immensity of the graveyards and the young Canadians who died there. If there was a crappy job to be done in the war, they always gave it to Canadians because we don't stop once the fight begins. That's who we are. We come from a long line of fascist fighters, right? And we didn't brag about it. The Americans came home, they were the Band of Brothers, they were the greatest generation, we all grew up on their war comics. But our people came home.
Elbows up.
They were elbows up, but they didn't talk about it, right? And I was just down the street here and I was asking about the armory. What's that armory? The Ontario tanks. My Uncle Len was in the Ontario tanks. I didn't even know where my Uncle Len was. He was at Ortona. He broke the Hitler line, and he came back and he died young. So many of them died young. But they went to free other people. That's our job. Just as we held the line against Reagan, just as we held the line against the Nazis, so it falls to Canada to hold the line again. That's why you're here tonight, because you understand that, right? So I want to talk just a bit now about this moment that we're in. Because when I read the media, they're back to their favorite topic, which is the high school drama on the Rideau Canal, you know. What cabinet minister is going to do this, you know. I mean, they're looking at pure polling numbers. Well, we just had an election. Who cares? There's not going to be another election for 4 years. It's the big headlines. I'm not reading anything about Trump and fascism, right? It's because people and all our experts, and I found that for my 21 years in politics, the people that you hire who are experts and the smart people, they're good at what they know. But we're in the unknown now. And we have to think in a different way. And so the people who we traditionally read and are supposed to reassure us or explain to us, they're not doing that, right? And what's happened here, which is very extraordinary, is that ordinary Canadians are the ones who get it. You know? You don't have to read the evening news every night or listen. You know that what we're dealing with is authoritarian threat and fascism to our country. And you know you need to do something. And that's an extraordinary thing. And I want to reassure you, and I want to tell you, and it's a really important thing, because you may feel at times it's okay to be freaked out. I'd like to say I am, but I try to pretend I'm not. But the world is watching us right now. I get messages every day from Ireland, New Zealand, from all over the United States. They're watching Canada because we stood up. And where we're at right now, it's a fragile line. We may not keep standing up. We could go back to fighting with each other. We were sleepwalking towards a disaster just before Trump. Admit it, we were all sleepwalking. We were all cranky. We came out of COVID. You know, that cousin of yours or that neighbor, the guy you work with who just went down the rabbit hole and started shouting about the World Economic Forum and conspiracy, and you didn't want to talk politics because you didn't know who was crazy and who wasn't anymore, so you just stopped talking, right? And you were told Canada's broken and Canada's broken. And that Canadian flag that you always loved was always being hung upside down. And when they pulled up beside you in a car, you're like, oh my God, who's that? Well, you know what? We're taking our Canadian flag back. How about that? Yeah. Because our Canadian flag represents something. It represents something. And it's up to us as ordinary people to stand up for that. To not be afraid in the face of fear. Because the reason Donald Trump hates us, and he hates us, you know, he wants, of the 150 countries that were given this tariff war, he's come at Canada again and again and again. It's about destroying our auto sector. It's about destroying our steel. It's about destroying aluminum, even though it makes absolutely no sense. It's causing more economic havoc on the American side of the border right now than here. But he doesn't care. He sees us as the threat. And of the 150 countries, I mean, he picked on poor little Madagascar and Liechtenstein, you know? It's like country and the place with the penguins. The penguins. He hates penguins. But there was one country he didn't impose tariffs on. Russia. $5 billion of trade, and he said he wants to increase trade with Russia. He doesn't want to increase trade with Canada. He said we're the nastiest country he's ever dealt with. Damn right. Damn right. Elbows up. And why is that? It's not because he's after our critical minerals, which he'd like to get, but he could get them anyways. He wants our water. Yeah, of course he wants our water. No, you're not getting that. He wants, we already got two premiers who are saying, gee, Donald, sorry we offended you. Can we bring all your liquor back into our stores and we get nothing back? You know? Traitors, quislings. Did I say traitor? Sorry. But the reason we are a threat is because we are a democratic nation. And gangsters don't want democracy. And not only are we a democratic nation, we are a nation of diversity, right? We are a nation of equity. We are a nation that believes in inclusion because these are fundamental principles of a decent and just society. And they hate that. They hate that. So when I look at those MAGA incels on the other side of the border and everything they're saying with us, you know, Howard Lutnick has said Canada wasn't being grateful. You know? Are you kidding me? And then Pete Navarro said, whoa, Canada, lower the rhetoric. With all this hockey stuff. It's like, elbows up, man. That's the least of it. Wait till coach tells us to go over the boards. Right? And Pete, I would love to pull that jersey over your head. And then we'll send in the women's team. Yeah, right? Okay, so We have a task ahead of us, and it's going to be a long fight. Nobody is stupid enough to believe that Donald Trump is going to cut some kind of deal. The only deal he will get is if our leaders decide to bend and kiss the ring. We got two who are ready to kiss the ring. We can't let anyone else do that. Because by kissing the ring, we're betraying what we come from, and we'd be betraying our values. And our future. Our future as a democratic nation. And that's not going to happen. Not now, not ever, right? Elbows up. Nobody's coming to save us. You know that, I know that. I realize that in Europe, nobody's coming to save us. There's no big brother. There's no smart, brilliant person who's going to talk the lunatic back into his cave. It's going to fall to us in this line that we're going to hold. Ukraine is holding the line. And the reason we have to hold the line is that if they think we're weak, we will end up in Ukraine's position. We have to be strong at every level so that they don't ever think about going to the next level. And I just say that that's a fact, that we have to never forget what's at stake here. So, we have to make ourselves strong from the grassroots up. We have to rebuild where we had given up and lost things, which was community. So number one, do not doom scroll. Okay? Make me a promise. I know you doom scroll. I doom scroll. You're one of those people who, like, as soon as you wake up in the morning, you just get your camera, your phone, and you want to know, did he blow something up last night? You know? Don't doom scroll. I'm watching you. You call me, okay? If he doom scrolls, don't doom scroll, because what we need to do is actually rewire our thinking. We've gotten caught in this trap of living in a world that's not real. We have to disengage more and more from social media because the bots and the toxicity is about breaking us apart from one another. My Facebook feed is just full of it. It gets harder and harder to talk to people because the bots and the hate machine don't want us talking to people. So we have to factor that in. So the best thing we can do is get active at local levels. You need to get out and meet people. You got to remind yourself that your neighbors are good, that Canadians are okay. It might bug you once in a while on the weekend because they're playing their damn music so loud, but they're good people. And you're going to meet people that you didn't know, so you need to volunteer. I know that might sound trite, but it's not. We have to democratically proof our world and our nation from the grassroots up. Council of Canadians, there you go. You can get involved. I don't care what you volunteer for, but volunteer and be active. Make the resistance strong at the local level, because it is about empowering ourselves to be not afraid. Because when you're not afraid, you can stand up to anything. But we are in the in-between time, because we don't know where this goes next. We know where it may go. It may go to full-on fascism. But it's the in-between. They haven't got themselves set up yet. And what we're seeing is that good people are starting to step up. And across the United States, good people are starting to step up. Their leaders might have failed. My God, the poor Democrats, I don't know. We're going to get some fibrillators for them. But, you know, the judges are not stepping up. But ordinary people, it's now our job. And the amount of Americans who write to me and say elbows up because they see that Canada's standing up. So we're in this in-between moment where we know what may happen if we do not act. So it falls to us to act. And I gotta say, if I have to face down against that fascist, predator, sexual weirdo, and all his MAGA incel friends and all their hate bots, I would face him down any day, knowing that you are with me. Because we are united, we are Canada. We cannot be broken, we will never bend, we will never kiss the gangster's ring, and we will always be true, north, strong, and free. That's who we are, that's who we'll always be. We will never, ever bend. So this is our job, this is why Oshawa is the front line. Oshawa will never bend, Canada will never bend. We will hold the line. Elbows up, elbows up, elbows up. Elbows up. Thank you.